Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B e-commerce integrated. And I'm super excited today because we're going to talk about B2B marketplaces. And today in the show, we have Helena Strahl, and you know her because she was in our show, a little less than a year ago, together with Niklas. But today we have Helena. So Helena, thanks for being here in the show again. And please introduce yourself shortly again.
Yeah. Hi, Arno. Nice to be back. My name is Helena. I work a lot with B2B e-commerce. I've done that for over a decade, started by a fluke and got hooked on it. And I work for a company called Waye Digital, where we do a lot of digital innovation for traditional industries. So I usually joke that I don't know a lot about selling dresses, but give me a spare part or a fertilizer, or chemical or something, and then I'm all yours.
Nice. Yeah, so we're going to talk today about B2B marketplaces, and they are, of course, it's a big topic, it's a big trend. We are going to dive into that part as well. First of all, there are B2B marketplaces in many different forms, right? We have the Amazons and the other major players, Alibaba, for example, as well as that we're seeing a trend that certain verticals, certain companies are building their own marketplaces or host their own marketplaces where sellers can sell their stuff and B2B buyers can purchase. So let's start and dive right into the topic. And what is your take on the growth of the B2B marketplace trend, Helena?
I think it aligns very well on the general trend that the most increase we see in e-commerce is within B2B. And what we see in B2B that companies want to drive efficiency. The customer expectations is to do self-service. You want to do a little more research online before contacting a company and so on. I think the trends we see in general for B2B kind of aligns very well with the trends for the marketplace. And often why you're going to go online is that you want to expose yourself for new markets. And what better way to do that within a marketplace that maybe already have an audience. So I think in general, the trend for the marketplace is the trend we are seeing for B2B e-commerce in general, or not the trend, but like the history that it's growing. And I think it's interesting is like you see a lot of people use like Amazon and Alibaba and big ones, but there also are some verticals. I have an example I haven't worked with myself, but I have colleagues in this industry where it's for like spare parts for aviation. So a very specific vertical. So I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know the answer, but it's going to be interesting to see, do we have a winner takes it all? So, everything will be like on Amazon, or is it more going to be like verticals? And also will it differ between different markets? Because if you take like some markets in the B2C industry, Amazon is like e-commerce is Amazon. And if you go to some other markets where Amazon wasn't the first mover, they do not have the same positions as they, for example, do in UK, US and Germany. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where we end up. Is it going to be verticals or like the big ones, or a combination of both?
Nice. Hey, and you were from the Nordics, right? I think you're calling now in from Sweden, from Gothenburg. Yeah. So in the Nordics, they always technology adoption is always quite high, and also about new trends. So do you see anything specifics in the Nordic region related to this trend, or not particularly?
No, what I see is typically that some people use like Amazon and Alibaba, typically Amazon, and often you start with like standard parts of your assortment. If you have an assortment, you have some things that are more standardized, and then you have some where you maybe have like specific configurations, or it's very complex to decide what you want. So usually you're a bit strategic. You start with easy parts, which is easy to put up. But I don't see any, I'm going to be honest, I don't see anything specific in the Nordic compared to the other ones. I think this trend that people are interested, people are investigating if they want to do a vertical, and people are experimenting with like Amazon, or not experience, but that's like what you use Amazon. So I think that's what I see.
Yeah, so let's say also what we see at Sanas, most of the time it's taken together with the B2B e-commerce trend or going digital. They say, hey, let's open a store. And then, what about the marketplaces? That's maybe another channel that we also want, right? We want, they most of the time they want everything. So then it's always good to choose or to decide, okay, what do you do first, or how are you going to combine these multiple channels into a digital strategy, let's say so. still we know that a lot of the B2B e-commerce transactions are being done offline, right? Roughly 40%. So there's still room for growth in both these areas. But what do you normally advise on for when a company comes to you and say, we want to go on the marketplaces? When is it the right fit, or when it's not a right fit? What do you advise normally?
I think often, but it's important to realize, like any IT solution, that there's no silver bullets. It's not like you dump your assortment on Amazon and then all of a sudden, with no effort, you get a lot of sales.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have a strategy. Like, do you want to go like on a wider one like Amazon, or do you want to find a vertical and realize that this actually is a marketplace that suits me very well? I think that's something. Also deciding, is it my full assortment or just some parts of the assortment? Once again, maybe I want to start with, if I have like a very complex part, and maybe start with the simple parts and learn something from that. And I think you need to look through the full cycle. You need to look at, okay, if we put this, how do we market them? Do we buy Amazon ads, or do we do commercial otherwise? How do we do with the assortment? Like I mentioned before, what assortment do we have? Sales. Some marketplaces have that you don't really make a sale right away. The customer makes a question for a quotation, and then you answer that quotation. Okay, how does that fit in our sales process? Do we need to change it? And payment options, often, at least in the Nordics and in Europe, it's very often that it's like invoice. But if you have a lot of new customers, maybe you want to have upfront payment and credit card payment. And how does the marketplace deal with that? Do they solve that for you, or do you need to solve that yourself? So you just get the quotation and then you need to figure that out. And also the supply chain. If you go to a marketplace, it's usually to reach new markets you aren't into. How will your supply chain work? Can your supply chain handle these new countries? Or do you need to have a new 3PL, or does the marketplace even offer like FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, so they can do your order fulfillment? And how do you do with returns? And most of all, like, how do you get insights? If you are using the marketplace, do they take most of your data, or can you actually start to developing a relationship with customers afterwards? So I think you need to kind of go through the sales cycle and conclude how are you gonna go through it. I think that would be I think that's like important to know how you're gonna do it.
No, that's very, very interesting, Helena. And actually, you mentioned 6 different areas of where you need to make decisions, so first of all, is about what kind of products are suitable, what not. Is it, let's say, a real sale, or it's more like a quotation process? Maybe that differs a lot. How to deal with payment, supply chain. You mentioned the service after it. Let's say after you have done the deal. And the insights, how can you evolve? How can you learn from the data? So taking the first topic about product and product complexity. So in your opinion, what kind of products are now suited really well to sell on a marketplace, and what is more complicated or not even possible yet, and you need to solve in different ways?
No, if you have products that are like, this is the SKU, this is the description, this is the photo, and you can easily conclude that, that's good. But what if you have products where you need to make a configuration, where every customer buys their unique configuration, or there might be, for each product, there are thousands different configuration depending on measurements or a material lining, if it's approved for food industry, or like, oh, this works until -10 meter and this is -12. If you have 1,000 of those, maybe take the ones that are the highest grossing and focus on getting those. So I think this differs. Some would say we only have complex products, so then maybe you just want to start a quotation process, and some only have like standardized. But I think you need to look at your own assortment and conclude what makes sense.
No,
and be
correct.
A bit smart about it, that you don't create a monster for yourself that's never going to work.
Yes. And obviously in B2B, it can also happen that some products are regulated, for example, right? With chemicals or so on. Probably these are also less possible. But of course, you have then on a public one like Amazon, but then you have maybe vertical ones that are more optimized for that, right? So that can also be the case.